Have you ever heard a silence so loud it deafens you? That was the silence in our car, a brand new Mercedes I'd bought her, parked under a flickering street lamp on a quiet Chicago side street, just moments before, inside the restaurant. She'd leaned across the table, her eyes, the ones I fell in love with, shining with what I thought was sincerity. She'd whispered, "I love you. You know that, right?" and kissed my hand. Now she was staring at her phone, the screen's cold blue light painting her face in shades of guilt. "I just need to make a quick call," she'd said, her voice suddenly distant. She stepped out, closing the heavy car door with a soft thud that echoed the closing of a chapter in my life. I watched her pace on the wet pavement, her back to me, her shoulders hunched, not against the cold, but in secrecy. The mystery wasn't asterisk if asterisk she was lying, but how deep the lie went. And in that moment, I knew I was about to follow her down into the dark to find out. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. For 10 years, my world had been Sarah. We built a life in a Lincoln Park brownstone, hosted dinner parties, and took trips to Napa. I ran a successful logistics company, working brutal hours, but I did it all for her, for us. The humiliation began subtly. It was in the way she laughed at a text, and then quickly hid her phone if I walked into the room. It was the sudden need for girls' nights that stretched into the early morning hours. I'd wait up, the knot in my stomach tightening with every passing minute, only for her to come home smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers, and a vague, dismissive story on her lips. The strange behavior escalated. She started criticizing me, my clothes, my friends, the way I loaded the dishwasher. It was 1,000 tiny cuts, each one designed to push me away, to justify the distance she was creating. The discovery wasn't a single dramatic moment. It was a slow, agonizing bleed. A credit card receipt for a room at the Thompson Hotel in the Gold Coast on a Tuesday afternoon. I thought she was at a yoga class. Then, the phone records. I saw the same number, over and over, dozens of calls a day, texts at 2 a.m. The name was Mark, a colleague from her new marketing job. Man I'd met once at a company party. He had a weak handshake and eyes that never quite met mine. As the evidence mounted, Sarah grew colder, more manipulative. She'd gaslight me, twisting my concern into paranoia. "You need to stop being so insecure," she'd snap, her voice dripping with contempt. "It's suffocating." She and Mark felt untouchable, wrapped in the arrogance of their secret. They thought I was a fool, and for a while they were right. The breaking point came on our anniversary. I'd booked a table at Alinea, a place she'd always dreamed of going. I came home early, a bouquet of her favorite peonies in my hand, and found the house empty. A note on the counter said she was stuck at work. I knew where she was. I drove to his apartment building in River North, my heart pounding a funeral drum against my ribs. I saw her car parked on the street. I just sat there, in the dark, for hours. When she finally came out, he was with her. He kissed her, a long, possessive kiss under the streetlight, and she melted into him. That's when something inside me shattered. The loyal, loving husband died in that car. In his place, a cold, strategic man was born. The tears that streamed down my face weren't of sadness, but of rage. My new purpose was singular: revenge. The next 6 months were a masterclass in deception. I became the perfect, oblivious husband. I apologized for my insecurity. I bought her gifts. I listened to her fabricated stories about work with a patient smile. All the while, I was gathering my arsenal. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop, who documented every single tryst. He got photos of them checking into hotels, kissing in parking garages, holding hands at a quiet bar in Wicker Park. I opened a new bank account and began methodically moving my assets, protecting the fortune I had built. I consulted with the most ruthless divorce attorney in Chicago, a woman known as the Shark. We set the traps, legal and social, with painstaking precision. I found out Mark was using company funds to pay for their getaways, and I made sure that information found its way to an anonymous tip line for his company's board of directors. The public exposure was a symphony of destruction, and I was its conductor. The stage was Sarah's charity gala, her crowning social achievement of the year. She was on stage in a glittering gown, giving a speech about integrity and family values. As she spoke, a large screen behind her, meant to display photos of smiling children, flickered. And then it began, a slideshow. The first photo was of her and Mark, kissing outside his apartment. The next, them checking into the Thompson. Then another, and another curated collection of their betrayal, all time-stamped, each one a nail in her coffin. A collective gasp rippled through the ballroom. Her smile froze, her face draining of all color. Her father, a man who adored me, stared at the screen, then at her, his expression a mixture of horror and disgust. She stumbled off the stage, humiliated, her social world incinerated in an instant. The next morning, she was served with divorce papers. Mark was fired and facing embezzlement charges. She was left with nothing. No husband, no lover, no money, no friends. I sold the brownstone and moved to a sleek, minimalist apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. Sometimes late at night, I look out at the city lights and think of her. I don't feel anger anymore. I don't feel much of anything. The revenge was not a victory. It was a cauterization of a wound. It burned away the infection, but it left a permanent, empty scar. I heard she moved back in with her parents, a ghost in her childhood home. The last time I saw her, she was across the street, a shadow in the rain, just watching my building. The end.